I'm Googs. After Pat and I went married, we had 4 children, and so I was totally not part of life in Little Falls anymore. I was just keeping my head above water. And Dad called and said, I knew Mother was sick, I didn't know how sick. Dad called and said, you better come home, Mother is dying, and I was gonna have a baby any minute. So I went home and said, Mother, I'm gonna stay here and have the baby upstairs at the hospital. Pat had the kids, I had Mary Frances with me. Pat had farmed the kids out with the neighbors, and I went upstairs and had the baby, Ellen, born, and Mother died the next day. Then Pat came down with the kids, and we had all the kids together in that house in chaos for Christmas, and we left. We had the baby baptized at St. Mary's and left, and I was really out of the family for a lot. All the things that happened.
But Googs, one of the things about why Mom died the next day, because all the time that she was dying, she kept saying, is the baby here? Is the baby here? And finally the baby came, and they wanted to bring it down and show it to her, but they couldn't do that. So some nun went up and took a Polaroid picture of the baby and brought it down and showed Mom. And she
died about 3 hours
well,
later.
And her last words were, take the blue clothes back and buy pink. Because we were all hoping for a boy. You had 3 girls and a boy, and you had another girl. So that was,
So anyway, I was very busy. We had 2 more children. We had Mother and Dad down for holidays, or we didn't have Mother and Dad. We had Dad and his new wife, Mickey. Mary and Nora spent a lot of time in and out of our house. They didn't need to be invited. They came and found a place to sleep. Jim was at law school. He came when he needed some place to sleep. One time the house was locked, so he took the ladder, crawled up on the porch and took off the screen and crawled the window, scared the living daylights out of my neighbor next door, who thought we were being robbed. I said, no, this is my brother. And so life went on. And Jim's also the one who came down the steps one day in the middle of the night and met Kathy and Jerry Wick, who were staying at our house coming home from Albuquerque. Kathy and Jerry said, we're Kathy and Jerry, we're borrowing Googs' house. He said, I'm Jim, her brother. Jim went upstairs to sleep. Kathy and Jerry and their 2 kids used the downstairs bedrooms, and life went on as before. That's how our house was. Our house was just like the house in Little Falls, different people, different cast. So Dad said to me, what do you think about me getting married? I said, good, because he had told me he was going to sell the house, sell the business, and he and Mary Frances were going to come down and help us raise the kids. So when he said he wanted to get married, I was all in favor of that. So he and Mick got married, and
at 5 o'clock in the morning
they got married at 5 o'clock in the morning in Crozier, and then went off to California.
Well, first they had a reception at Izadi's resort.
Okay, yep, that's true. And then Pat and I, Aunt Jane Mingo had all those kids, babysat all those kids for me for the day. So what happened then was I had told Dad that I wanted him to get married. So I had an obligation to be a friend of Mickey. I would never have a mother. I had a mother, and she stayed with me always. She helped me raise all my kids. But Mickey, I thought Mickey deserved a friend. So Pat and I would be her friend. As it turned out, I was a good friend to her, and she and Pat developed a real relationship because Pat's own mother had died in childbirth and was raised by his grandma. So he and Mickey had a great relationship all these years. So anyway, then she and Mickey came for all the holidays, and then it went on and on like that, and then Dad got sick. And when Dad got sick, Pat and I decided to go up every Saturday. We drove up every Saturday. We left the house at 7 o'clock, got to Big Elk River for coffee at 8 o'clock, and Little Falls 9 o'clock. Went over to the nursing home and spent the day with Dad, had lunch and came back. This was such a schedule that someplace in the middle of the summer, we got to Elk River and the guy said, you're 20 minutes late. So anyway, we did that. And in the process of that, Dad got better and came back to the apartment. But he took me aside and said, Mickey's been very good to me. By the way, every single morning that Dad was in the nursing home, Mickey got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and got all of his clothes, pants, shirts, sweaters, socks, shoes, color-coded and freshly washed and ironed. And she carried them over to the nursing home on a hanger and helped Dad get dressed like that. It was suggested to Mickey that life would be a lot easier for she and Dad if he wore loose pants with elastic. And she said, Tony Randall does not wear pants with elastic. Tony Randall lived and died and is dressed to the nines. So anyway, when Dad said to me, who's going to take care of Mickey? I said, Dad, there's no problem. First of all, our kids were all married and gone. Jim's kids were older, and Mary and Nora were out of the state. I said, so if the four of us are going to take care of Mickey, Pat and I will be responsible for whatever Mickey needs, and I will call up the kids and they will be right there to help. I promise you, Dad, your 4 kids will take care of Mickey. And he believed me, and he was right. So what happened was, after Dad died, Pat and I went up to Little Falls once a month and stayed all day. And it was immediately apparent to us that she was dying of loneliness, even though she had Sister Teresa 2 hours a day. So we decided, okay, Pat said, okay, I'll quit the hot dog stand, you keep working, and I'll drive up and pick Mickey up, take her out for lunch, and bring her down, and we'll keep her for 3 or 4 days. She loved that. We did that for a number of years. Then at holiday time, she'd come early and stay late. And at that point, we moved to Palace, and we had a bedroom that we made a Little Falls bedroom, and said, Mickey, that's your bedroom. And she said, no, it's not. I will come down here and have my own bedroom anytime I want, anytime you want me, but I will always have my own bedroom. So, okay, Mickey had her way. So that's how we handled it. And at that point, Sister started calling me that things were not all that good with Mickey. And so it became apparent to us that we had to do something. Mary Frances came home, I think was Mary Frances.
I came home and Mickey wouldn't let me out of the house.
But you came down to when we had the meeting with Mary Randall.
Yes, but I had come home and a girlfriend had called, and Mickey said to the girlfriend, if Mary Frances wants to talk to you, she would have called you, and hung up on her. And I couldn't get out of the house. She was not going to let me out of that apartment to do anything. And so we did drive. We went to 5 o'clock Mass. We left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We parked next to the priest's house at St. Mary's, and there were some things that Mickey said that kind of were really red flags. And so I went back and I called you guys, and we came down here and had a family meeting.
We called the meeting at the Lex because that was Dad and Mother's favorite place. We asked Mary Randall, our cousin's wife, to come in because they had already gone through this with Uncle Walt and Aunt Marie, and Chuck was dead, so Mary Ann stepped in. And in the process of our describing what was going on, she said, you have to get the car away from her. First of all, you've got to get the car away. So, how do you get the car away? Well, we turned to Jim. And Jim, how did you get the car away?
I got the keys and I drove the car out of there.
Didn't you go to the Department of Motor Vehicles and have them send her
Yeah,
a
we
notice?
I did.
The anonymous tip that she needed to retake her driver's test.
You have a good memory. In fact, I'm not even sure it was anonymous. I might have said, I'm her son. I'm concerned about her driving. Can you contact her and tell her she has to pass another test or lose her license?
And she had just turned 82,
Yeah.
so it was right after her birthday.
Yeah, but see,
But
they didn't tell her that you called. You may have told them who you were, but they didn't tell her that their son had called. That was a nice
They
thing.
told her that she had just had a birthday and she was gonna have to retake it because she was 82.
Because she'd never had a license. Her dad got her a license when she was like 12 years old to
Right.
drive the truck out to the field and back.
Right.
So anyway, Jim got that done, and Mickey got the letter and didn't understand it, so she showed it to Pat, Pat said, "Oh, it's no big deal, Mickey. We're going up to Bay Lake. Why don't you come up to Bay Lake with us?" Mickey loved Beth's cabin. He said, "What we'll do is we'll go drive over to Brainerd. Nobody would know her, and you can take that test, and then you get your driver's license." So over we go, and Mickey flunked the test.
3 times.
Well,
Oh.
the first time.
Yeah.
And Pat said, "No big deal, Mickey. Get the book." He got the book for her, and you know Mickey in a book. She went home, she pulled all the grapes, and she sat and read the whole book, and took the test and flunked. And she did that 3 times when she threw the book away and went into depression.
And
And
the
that-
thing is, when she was doing that, you couldn't get her to do anything else. She wouldn't leave the house, she wouldn't go to bridge club, she wouldn't go to she wouldn't, like Sister Teresa would try, and she know, and I would call her, and she would say, "No, I have to stay home and study. I have to stay home and study." She was it was a terrible time.
This is when she was at
the
St.
apartment.
Mary's around.
In the
No,
apartment.
this was when she
In
was
the
in the
apartment.
apartment. She was studying for the driver's test, right?
Well, was that when she was living in Anne-Marie Circle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, yeah,
Oh,
Anne-Marie
yep.
Circle.
Yeah, and then I started getting phone calls from Sister Teresa. Things were not really bad. They found Mickey asleep in the up in the lodge or the living room. She was fighting with some kids out the window, and there weren't any kids there. She was running out and chasing the kids away, and there weren't any kids.
And they were from Pierce, you know how those Pierce kids are.
And,
She
and
was
so I said, Mickey,
hallucinating.
Sister Teresa, lock the doors.
Yep.
Mickey will never know how to open them.
Yep.
So she locked the doors, that didn't work. Then we started getting calls to get up. Okay, and Mickey her bad stomach, she was going, we thought it was cancer. They did tests for no cancer. Then we found out that Mickey had all of her medication in a plastic bag, and she was taking it the way she chose whatever she thought she should take. So we knew we were in big trouble, big trouble. So at that point, I called Jimmy, and I went out to Jim's house, and Jim and Monty and I sat down to brainstorm what the heck were we gonna do. And Monica said, "You guys, you've gotta find a place for her because she's taking Aricept. She takes Aricept like she's doing, and she's gonna be really sick." So Jim came into town, and I called Peg Lidstead and said, "Peggy, you've researched all the nursing homes in the greater metropolitan area. Give me a list of 5 in the right order." And she said, "Got 'em." She handed them over to me, and the first one was Presbyterian Homes at Lake Johanna. And I knew that was good because that's where Kathy Wick's relatives had been, that's where Joanne O'Neill had been. Okay, Jim and I went out, and we walked in, and we said, "We're the Mingos, our daughter Mickey is
Your
gonna
mother, Mickey. You said
our
daughter.
mother Mickey needs help. We'll, what you got?" And they said, "Well, we have one opening. It's the suite." Jimmy and I said, "Perfect." So we went down the basement and looked. It was a living room, a bedroom, bathroom, and big windows looking out. She was the ground level, but she still could sit at her desk and look out at the sky and the grass. All her meals would be taken care of, all her laundry would be taken care of, and we signed up for, they would take the medication away, and they would be responsible for medication. And there was a doctor and a dentist in the building, so we would just transfer all of her care to that. Jim would handle the trust and get that organized, and I would handle the medical directive. Both of us somehow managed to get power of attorney without Mickey agreeing to it. The trust took care of that, I suppose. And, cause Mickey was very close to Bernie. Anything Bernie said, he did. So somehow we had power of attorney. I could handle all the medical, Jim could handle all the money. And we had Jim Rorschach put the down payment, and we had 30 days to get Mickey to move.
To a place
no
you'd never seen, out of Little Falls.
And no clue how we were gonna do that. And I get a phone call from her niece, Arlene. And Arlene said, "I'm here to take care of Aunt Laverne. But she had me up all night last night, and I've taken her, her sister's taken her over to the hospital. You need to come right away. So we went down right away and got there about 8 o'clock in the morning, and there's sister and Mickey sitting right there. She's had her stomach pumped, she's fine. And she doesn't remember a thing. And Arlene has gone back to the apartment to call a cousin to pick her up. The sister says to me, I've got to go over there and take care of the apartment. So sister goes, and the doctor takes Pat back and says, I never met your mother. I don't know what's going on. I'm a substitute here. But that woman cannot be alone by herself. She doesn't have a thought in her head. Now that was the first we'd heard about that, and he didn't know that she had already stopped. No doctor could talk to us. No doctor could talk to sister. She had to stop. No hospital could talk to us. But he didn't know that. So he said, move her. So we came back, and Pat said, go see that guy. So I went back. And he said, you cannot let that woman alone 1 minute. So that was it. We took her out of there. We brought her down. I called Nora and Mary and said, one of you come home immediately, and one of you come home in 2 weeks. First of all, I called Paul Harvey, our friend who had a moving thing, and said, what day can you move her? And he said, the only day I can move her is the morning after Thanksgiving. I don't have any job that day, but I have, no, I do have, but you have to do it. I gotta be out in Little Falls at 8 o'clock, and we gotta get it done before noon. So Nora came home, and we went out to we got up at 4 o'clock, drove up, and what we did was, we took all the stuff from that apartment that we could possibly get in the new house, and that was one pile. Then there was another pile of all the valuable stuff that three of us had agreed Mary and Nora should get, because they didn't have big weddings. So Nora went through and picked everything she and Jackie wanted, and everything else that had any value went in a pile for Mary. Then Monica and I went through and picked out what was left. Paul Harvey picked up everything, and his movers moved it in so that she was in. And we just took all of her clothes. We took all of her clothes, and that nothing changed. So a couple days later, we had that settled. We picked up Nikki and went for a ride. And we went out to Presbyterian Home. Presbyterian had gorgeous dining room, white tablecloths, a piano playing music during dinner, windows overlooking the lake. And we had dinner there, and while we were there, Mary Frances called us. And she said, do you know this is the anniversary of the day Dad died? And we went, okay, Tony, good. We're glad you're here. Somehow we're going to put Mickey in that room, and you stay with her. So we walked Mickey down to that room that looked just like her own furniture, her own clothes, only 2 rooms and a bathroom. And we walked out, and they were alert. This is not the first people that did this, okay? They were alert. They were not aware of what Mickey was, but they didn't let her alone. They were outside the door for 48 hours. And the first night, Mickey stayed up all night. She unpacked every single box, put everything away, and had it tidy, and then went to bed. Mickey was in a nursing home, and from then on, Pat and I were in charge. Jimmy handled the trust.
Well, but also now, there was a moment in there where she had to sign the lease, and she had to sign the agreement to let them give her the medication, right?
No, we
What?
had power of attorney. I did that. I had medical director. Jim had money, and so
Okay.
she wouldn't have signed the thing.
That's what I thought. I thought it was okay.
Oh,
That
and
clears
as a
that up.
matter of fact, she didn't let go of the thing. She had a fight with the laundress there because we had said change her bed and do her laundry. Every single week, the laundress was a lovely little lady, and she had to wrestle Mickey for the sheets. She had a big fight with the hairdresser. We had a wonderful hairdresser, and we paid right away. All of this is paid for by the trust. I just called the trust. Pat made sure it happened. But Mickey wouldn't go, and she fought with the guy. They called and said she was a reject. They didn't want her coming up anymore. And I said, she will come up. She looks like hell. Her hair was hanging to her shoulders. Pat said she looks just like George Washington. We've got to do something. So we just kept fighting her. Finally, she quit fighting us. And when she finally got her hair done, she loved it.
Yeah.
And so they had people who picked her up and took her every week Some weeks I was there, some weeks I wasn't.
So she had a really good life at First Presbyterian Home.
She
had
did.
a
Yes,
she
and
had
you
a
know-
good life after her Alzheimer's got so bad she forgot she was angry. No, she was really, really angry at me.
Yeah.
She yelled at me every time. And one time we went out together, Pat and I, and he was repairing something, and she was yelling at me. And Pat stood up and said, "Mickey, if you can't talk to Googs nicely, we're leaving. And Googs, get up, we're leaving." And we walked out. Never yelled at me again. Never.
Well, that's
and so. But as Alzheimer's came on, she forgot being perfect, she forgot anger, she forgot frustration, and she was happier. Up until that time, people came down to visit her, and she wouldn't let them in the door. She'd tell me they're too fat, they'll break my furniture. And the lovely aides were blonde, all of the aides were of a color, but she felt like she was a little hero, and these were her slaves. So she was very lovely to them, and she said, "Don't brush again, and my dish, don't brush against my furniture." They were wonderful to her. Honest to God, they had to have been saints. And I kept thinking, maybe they had a whole house full like this, but I don't think so. Anyway, that went on until
died.
Mickey.
Well, she got when she fell and then and they put that
Oh, no,
pin in her
no,
heel.
no.
Yeah, I feel like Mickey is
No, that's
channeling. I
after-
feel like Mickey is channeling through me and saying, "Mary Frances, have him stop. These are horrible stories about me, and I don't want that much of the tape about how awful I look." I feel like she is channeling right through me and going, "Wait. There were some good things."
Well,
No, that's not bad, Mary Fran.
Yeah,
That's not
but-
bad at all. You picked up on that.
right.
Yeah.
But the
So
thing
so
is,
let's bring it to a.
yeah, well, okay, she
What
always
else was
looked nice
happening in Little
because
Falls?
the aides would hold clothes up and she could pick which outfit they would dress her in. She had jacuzzi baths and she loved that. She even had men taking care of them. That was great.
Keep going. Go
But anyway,
bring it to the end.
what happened was that Mickey loved to go out and walk, and that was fine. Everybody there knew that, and she would walk the sidewalk around the building, and windows, everybody was watching, she'd come in. But one night I got a call that Mickey had walked out, and, oh no, that they asked to put a,
A bracelet on her
a
ankle.
bracelet on her, and that
So-
cost $300, and she cut it off and threw it away 3 times. At that point, they said, "Okay, and buy another one." And I called the trust, and I'm sure they checked with Jim. Go ahead and pay for it. So they locked all the doors, and that's what they're supposed to do, lock the door. Someone forgot to lock a door. Mickey walked out her door one night about 7 o'clock, and they missed her when they went to put her to bed. All hell broke loose out there. They went out every single door. They found her on her way to St. Paul, not far from the lake, in the dark. So anyway, 8 o'clock, we got a call. Then we went right out. They got Mickey bathed, got her in bed. We went in and talked to her and stayed with her. But she forgot everything. I mean, she didn't remember any of that. Got her calmed down. And they made us stay until she was sound asleep. And then the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call, "Come here, but we're moving her to Andover, Minnesota." And, "Oh, no, you're not. You're not moving her. I don't know where Andover is, and I can't visit her." And they knew by this time that I was out there 3 or 4 times a week. So I went out there 8 o'clock in the morning and said, "What other option is there?" And they said, "Well, you could hire your own aide until we had an opening in our Alzheimer's." And I said, "Go." She said, "It'll cost $25 an hour. Pay it." So they said, "Okay," because they knew bills got paid every month because the trust took care of it. So I called Jim and said, Jim said, "Go for it. He'll handle it on their end." And they had an aide there 24 hours a day. Mickey didn't know that. She kind of stayed outside. But if she went out, she went back in.
Yep.
So anyway, we did that. One came up one came opening, and they said, "Mickey's not going to like it," because they had one unit was all bedridden, and the other was kind of ambulatory. And they said, "But we do think we'll have one in the ambulatory." I said, wait, we'll pay. It doesn't matter. So
Didn't she go into memory care?
Well, that's what this
it's
is.
2 memory cares. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And-
Okay.
And so, eventually they got it, and the plan was that my friends were gonna come in, or they would move the furniture, my friends would move all the towels and the clothes. So the room would look as, Mickey would have a private bath, and she'd have a big room, and she would have room for her couch, and she had to have a single bed, a hospital bed. But everything else would be the same. So, the deal was, Pat would come out and pick Mickey up, and keep her in the car, and go out for lunch, and drive her around the neighborhood until they called Pat, and then when they called Pat, he would push her in the wheelchair up to the door and knock on the door, and I would not be there. The door would open, and the director and the social worker would greet her. Now, she knew the social worker already, so Pat just pushed that wheelchair in, they closed the door, and we went home and prayed. We didn't go back for 2 or 3 days, but by the time we went back, Mickey was adjusted because the room had everything that was hers. The room looked the same, and she had all 36 towels hanging in the bathroom, and all the same clothes in the closet. So, but she would not leave the room. She would not leave that room. But there was a lovely, lovely activities lady who every single day came in and said, Mickey, we'd love to have to come to X, Y, whatever was going on. Twice a day she did that. And eventually Mickey got tired of that and went out and had a good time. So at that time, the Alzheimer was at the point where Mickey was really amenable. She followed directions. She liked the social worker. She liked the guys there. In fact, she even found a boyfriend. So she stayed there, and she was happy there. And we went out and visited. We were out there probably 4 or 5 days a week. And we hired Jenny. Jenny started coming out on weekends because we couldn't do weekends. And we couldn't take her out anymore. Pat said we couldn't take her out anymore. He'd had that. And, so it went like that, and it went well. Mary and Nora came every year and spent all their time with her. Jim got out there, Jim's kids got out there. And then Pat and I got away because Ellen and Mary and Beth covered. And somebody was there every day. And Mary took Mickey, and as long as she could, Mary took Mickey to Mass at St. Odelia's. In fact, so much that the priest there recognized her, the crozier, and he came out and got into the memory care and tried to talk Mickey into making a donation. But I walked in on that, and I not only stopped that, I didn't donate either, and he left. So
She had a good end of her life.
And then she didn't have an ending because the root building did. Presbyterian Homes was pulling this building down, and what were we going to do? Mickey was one of the last people. She didn't know there was nobody in these closed doors. We would go down to the ice cream place or the solarium, and they wouldn't see anybody else. It didn't matter. But I knew that she had to make a move. So I had a meeting, and I said, okay, I want the truth. I only want my mother to move one time. Can she move into a program similar to this in a memory care, or does she need to go to more care upstairs on the lower floor? And they had a meeting, and they said, the truth is she probably needs level 4. And the man who was in charge of Mickey at memory care said, I know how good that program is. That's where I came from. Mickey will love it up there. But you don't have to do it. We will move Mickey. The maintenance department will move the furniture she can have and clothes. Right. And the social worker and the director will walk Mickey over and get her. So that's what happened. They moved her up there. And I went to a meeting. At the meeting I said, first of all, I'd gone to every single meeting. Every 3 months I went to the meeting. Every single month I came on my own agenda and said, I want this and this and this right up the case, because I knew if it was written in case, it was in cement. So I said, I want Mickey to always have the walker. She has to have the walker. She doesn't know what to do. But you put the walker in front of her and put her hands on it, she can handle it. Never leave her without the walker. Never leave her alone. And that was the only change, and then all the other things. Nora did the medication from Spokane, so I said, or from Vancouver, it didn't change, so all the medications were the same. and they were really good staff. However, we get the phone call. Your mother, it's at midnight, your mother fell and broke her hip. What do you want us to do? She has a medical director. And I said to Pat, what do we do? He said, send her to the hospital, send her to the emergency room, we'll meet her in the emergency. So they took her by ambulance to the emergency room. We went down there, and as a matter of fact, Nora was in town.
Yeah, it was.
And so Nora was, how about that? And so we sat there, Pat went home, and Nora and I stayed all night. And we agreed that we would follow the directive, no surgery. But they didn't ask us. The next morning.
No, well, they did, they came, and one of the things they said is, her hip is so porous that all they had to do was make an incision that was about that big, and they could screw the broken femur into her hip, and she would be, her foot would be a little shorter, but it would be fine, and she could just do bed rest. So, and they could do it with a local anesthetic. So even though the directive was no surgery, this seemed like
Yeah.
such a minor thing. We thought we should do it.
Well, and the next morning, Nora and I went home to sleep. Mary Frances and Cavazos and Jim came down, and they asked them, and Jim said, yes, go for the surgery. So by the time we got back, Mickey had had the surgery, and so it was good, doing great, and I was really happy. I didn't have to make that decision. And so we brought her home, and she had, someone came to see me from Medicare, a woman from Medicare. Your mother qualifies for physical therapy. And so we not only are gonna pay for the hospital, we will pay for her room all the days she was at the hospital. We will pay for all her room at the nursing home all the days that she continues to get better. Well, Mickey qualified, I went out to the therapy, I met the therapist I followed. She said, Mickey they put her on a walker where she walked up and down. First of all, she walked up and down a kind of hallway with it, and then she walked on a walker. And she was doing great for 6 weeks until they put her in a wheelchair, and she never could figure out pedaling.
She's gotta go. Get
Yeah,
on some other stuff too.
we gotta
We
bring
gotta
it
change the
up.
subject a little
Anyway.
bit, so do more.
We gotta do, cause we got a half an hour of Mickey now, yeah,
I'll
so.
just say is that thing on?
Yep.
Mickey did us all a big favor. Her family, her parents were successful wheat farmers in the Red River Valley of North Dakota. Probably started around the turn of the century and worked hard. Mickey remembers as a little girl going out on a horse-drawn wagon at 10 and 3 o'clock to feed the guys in the field who would then come in for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She had no children. She had a sister and a brother, Lloyd and Randalls, and both had children.
Llewellyn.
Luella. And the family had about 800 acres of good farmland. They were, land rich. And Llewellyn's children and Lloyd's children, I always kind of figured Aunt Mickey's land would be theirs eventually. And she may have mentioned that before she met my father, because they kind of counted on it. And shortly after they were married, she made a decision to avoid that family problem. She asked us 4 adults if she could adopt us. Me, I said, hell yes, and I think everybody else did too. I was the attorney for that. It was the summer of '68. They were married '66, so I handled my own adoption. So we're all legally Mickey's children. That took care of any problems with the North Dakota land. In effect, she left each of us through the years thousands and thousands of dollars. And that was a hell of a gift. And I always figured we owed her because she took care of Dad. He died in 1998, and she was good for him until she got sick herself, so I want to end it on that note. Hey, where else are we now?
Well, I would like to share just some tidbits of wisdom that our dad would share with each of us. Can any of you think of a 1-sentence word of advice or a short blip that you remember that Dad told you on how to live this life?
Yes. When you make a little, save a little. When you make a lot, save a lot, but never stop saving. And he brought me to C.L. Sedulka, who was one of his mentors when I was young, and he said, C.L., tell my son how to make money. C.L. said, put it in the bank. Interest works for you while you're asleep. My father said to me once, you know, he said, son, I never made more than $30,000 a year selling insurance. He and my mother were thrifty. They had the house. And he saved a lot of money and put us all through college, no college bills. He built wealth through savings. That was his legacy to me, and I'm trying to pass it on to my kids.
Dad said to me, I'd give anything if you and Pat were as rich as Jimmy, and Monty and Jim were as happy as you and Pat.
Well, he told me not to rock the boat. That didn't happen.
And he told me that Mickey was really good for him, but not so good for you, Mary Frances.
That's true.
And, but I concur with Jim and Googs and Nora. Mickey was a very important part of our life, and she gave it her absolute best shot. Like I said, she just didn't bank on a 13-year-old girl who'd been raising herself for the last 8 years to try and control. So.
And she never considered that she would live that long after Dad died.
No.
No.
The day we dropped her off, there was a long line of Presbyterian. It was kind of the Cadillac of the industry, not the most expensive. You know, Googs and I were there. The supervisor for the day said, well, there's a waiting list, but we have a lady who's already set for, I'll tell you where it was, room U on Loon Lane. And she said, she just called me and said she might probably not take it. You can give you $750 right now as a down payment, it's yours. Check didn't hit the floor. I gave her a check on the spot, and we got Mickey in, a good place, and we jumped over other applicants, so I figured maybe our dad would look it over our shoulder.
You know, and then we were in the parking lot of that restaurant that
Out
there
in North
and we
Oaks.
kind of toasted each other with Irish whiskey that
With
we
a
moved out
bottle
of
of
the house.
Irish whiskey that was saved for one of us to be a priest or a nun.
Yes.
Yes.
Remember we drank that in the parking lot
Thank
of
God.
Well, Mary Ann knew that restaurant. She told us about it.
what?
Kozlak.
Kozlak's. It was Kozlak's restaurant,
Yeah,
and Jim had that dang bottle in his trunk, and the four of us sat on the back, and we all had a good swig. Yeah,
Yep.
that.
Because it was a miracle that it actually all
Yeah.
worked.
I need to talk about Dad's cellar for a bit. My father didn't drink after he married Mickey, and my father kept a well-plenished cellar. It had bourbon and scotch. It had absolutely everything, and he would go down and talk to the bottles every once in a while. But when Nora was, the summer before Nora's trip into the convent, she and her friends would go down and they would sneak the bourbon out of there. So they were taking the bottles for Lastrop out of the basement. And so, you know, that was my model. So after Mother died, I was an ice skater, and I was ice skating at the North End rink every night after I got my homework done, and after Mrs. Moga, the Polish cook, cooked dinner, which was awful. I would go ice skating, and the McGuire boys and Cindy Thorne and a whole group of kids came over to the house. And Dad had those silver candlesticks full of cabin still on the mantle. Well, the McGuire boys broke the seal and drank them. And I had to call Nora in the convent and tell her what happened and what to do. And I'm not sure what you did, but Nora said to me, go fill them back up. Go get a bottle in the basement, fill them back up. And I said, but there's more left in the bottle. And she said, put it in a shoebox and bring it to me at the convent. So I got on my bike with this shoebox full of half a bottle of cabin still and rode my bike up to the convent, rang the doorbell, and what's her name?
Sister Eve.
Sister Eve.
I couldn't
met
do
me up.
anything without asking Sister Eve.
Sister Eve let me into the parlor.
Yep.
And I don't know what happened to the bottle, but I can't believe those nuns didn't call my dad.
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
I
he
don't-
never said anything, did
He
he?
never said a thing.
And
They
they could have
don't.
just drank it.
They put it in the dining room and drank it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, they took
But
it.
what did you tell them? I couldn't see you. You were in that period where I wasn't supposed to see you.
But wasn't I there? I thought I got,
I
I
thought
had
that-
to tell Sister Eve because I wasn't supposed to talk to my family, and I said, my sister really needs to come up and see me. And I thought that she actually let me meet you with her.
I think she did.
And then, you handed me the
Shoe
shoebox,
box.
which and I think, was Mother Thomasine there too? It might have been a state occasion for the nuns. Anyway, they took the bottle of bourbon away, and you pedaled off into the sunset, and I went back to being a postulant.
Yeah. And then there was the time, this is a Mickey story. Mickey, when I wasn't a good student, the rest of you were, I was really distracted in high school and wasn't particularly interested in school. But Mickey went in after my freshman year and told Sister Jadine that she thought I was special needs. And that,
Holy
and
cow!
that I was a candidate for special education because my grades were so low.
Oh my God.
And Sister Jadine called me into the office and said, your sophomore year, you're going to have to do a little better, Mary Frances. They think you have a problem. And I did. So, and Mickey told me that story too. She went to Judine and said, these grades, I just think she must be special ed. But when you look at children of trauma, I certainly lived through it.
Yeah, you qualified.
I qualified, so anyway,
Where did you make the coffee before?
at Dunn's coffee shop. Don't get that.
Well, if you have instant
Okay.
coffee, that's fine.
Any other last
I
things?
have one other story.
Yeah,
but-
tell one, you gotta get on
Okay, so Aunt Mona was afraid of the horse.
Thank you.
Aunt Ramona lived in our house. Nora had a horse named Blaze, and
yeah.
Blaze used to follow Nora into the kitchen.
You gotta press it.
And one day Nora came in the front door, and Blaze followed her in the front door, and the horse's ass was in the front door, and Jack Raymond, a competitor of Dad's in insurance, drove by, got on his phone and called Dad and said, Randall, I always knew you were a horse's ass, and there's one in your front door.
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, no, Blaze.
The horse's butt was sticking out the front door. We were trying to back it out because Aunt Mona was just having a
Oh,
fit.
yeah.
Well, my favorite story of the horse is that
Oh,
no one told us about the horse, so we drive up and park the car, and I say to Pat, I think there's a horse in the yard. And sure enough, there was a horse tied up to that thing. Well, the kids all rode it, and that day Nora, who was Patrick's godmother, took Patrick for a horse ride, just Patrick, and didn't he fall off and the horse stepped on Patrick, and Nora rushed him to the emergency room and he was fine. But he did have a footprint on his
Yeah.
chest.
Horse's hoof right over his heart. Oh my God, I was so scared. And he was fine. He was just kind of like, like, whoa.
Obviously, there are guardian angels, because if there was ever a family that needed guardian angels, it was the Randalls.
And we also used to go to Aunt Mimi Riley's for vegetable soup on Saturdays, and she made it from scratch, and her kitchen floor slanted. So you had to watch how full your bowl was.
You'd
Because it
have
would drip
half a
over the
bowl.
side. You could
Was
only-
that when she lived in the apartments
she
behind
lived,
the house?
Yeah, she lived upstairs in the apartments behind us.
Hmm.
And
The yellow ones.
yeah,
I forgot the fire. Going back to when I was a little girl, probably Dad was home from the army, so I would have been in 5th grade. I'm looking out the window, and Louie Riley comes tearing in the house, and Uncle Tony, our house is on fire. And we looked out the window, and sure enough, Aunt Mimi's house across the yard was on fire. And I sat in the window and watched the fire truck come.
Whoa.
that's another thing we used that was a real family thing, was that with the fire station was 2 blocks on First Avenue, on the side of us, and whenever that fire truck went by, Dad would yell, "Come on, kids, we got to make sure I didn't insure this place." And we would chase the fire truck all over hell and back. That's why when you told the story about after the war, them going out to sea, we used to, and Dad would explain, if I insured this place, no Christmas, I won't get my bonus. I won't get the bonus. I went to more fires in my pajamas. It didn't matter if it was at 11 o'clock or midnight. Come on, kids, there's a fire, let's go.
Well, yeah, and then there was the fire at the boat works. And when the fire at the boat works, Dad came home and sat in the living room with his head in his hands. Because that was a really
big one, and he had the insurance on the boat works. And the boat works burned, yeah?
Yeah.
That was a bad year.
Well, you know,
The good year, the best year he had was the year he used his bonus to buy the Surrey with the fringe on top. Your 4 kids, it was a pedal Surrey.
well,
And,
that was before your time.
yeah,
What was I gonna say that? I think that Jim encapsulated our life. He came over to the house for coffee every once in a while when he was in law school. And he was sitting at the table and I said, Jim, you know that in literature somewhere someone has said, or in Tale of Two Cities, there is the best of times or the worst of times. And I said, I think we're living through the worst of times, the worst 7 years. And Jimmy looked at me and said, what if these are the 7 best years?
Oh, God.
you know, I have to say, when I think of Little Falls, I think of the village that raised a child. Because the village of Little Falls did, at least for me, I felt like the village of Little Falls held me in the palm of their hand. And when I got married, there was a shower at the convent of all places. And Jen Bars had one in Afghan that my mother had knit when she was dying.
Oh, wow.
In a raffle, and she had put it away, and that was the shower gift I received and Jen Bars told the story at my shower. She said, Mary Frances used to sell campfire candy to me, and whenever she came to my front door, she'd say to me, where's my mother's Afghan? Because I knew she'd won it. I still have it. It's in the cedar chest in Spokane.
Wow.
But it was the last Afghan she knit.
Oh, and remember Aunt Helen, we forgot about Aunt Helen.
Oh,
Aunt Helen lived in St. Cloud and she came to Little Falls all the time. But her husband, Baldy, was gone in the insane asylum. And she came up every time she had her hair done and she stayed overnight with us. So she was friends with all of us because she always shared the extra bed in the extra bedroom was Aunt Helen.
Yeah. I think she and Mom were really good friends.
Oh, she was very good friend.
Everybody say your last favorite memory.
Last memory, quick.
Everybody sit down
Last
and say your
memory.
nice last
Hey,
memory.
Jim, we need last memory. We're cutting this down.
Because my battery's about
One
to end.
thing.
I want to get the
Go
last one
first.
so we get it.
Last memory. Last, really quick. Our battery's going dead.
Jim?
Look, one memory.
Okay, well, our last memory is, what sticks to me the most is the things my father told me growing up. I probably think more about him now, and he's dead than when he was alive. He gave me a lot of stuff, good stuff.
My last memory is the last night Pat and I talked, and we agreed that this morning, this meeting was a watershed moment in our life. It was the first time the 4 of us ever got together and talked like this, and this time it was videotaped, thanks to Tom, and probably it will be the last time because we ranged from 66 to 83, and we've had a pretty good run so far. Nora?
Yeah, do you have one? Yeah, I'm kind of stuck here, last memory.
Well, I can do my final memory is, and I know Nora and I talked about this, we are really, really scared. We have always lived our life with Googs and Jim here. You guys have always been here. Whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, we always knew you were here. And for me, you were more pivotal than Mickey or Mother or Dad, because you were kind of surrogate adults in my life that I can't imagine that you aren't always going to be there. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's
Sweet.
really true, because
That's
you
sweet.
used to take me to St. Francis. I was a gypsy kid in one of the operettas, and I was some other kid in another operetta, and then you took me to St. Kate's. And Jim, this is the thing I never got to say, because you and Moose, you used to go all over, and I used to try and follow you, but you were like so much bigger and so much faster. And one of the things you guys used to do is climb on the garage roof and hide on the barn part. The garage roof went like this, and there was a little place like here.
The south end.
That's right. You guys would climb up there and you would sit down there. Honestly, that was another thing like the shoelace. I worked and worked and worked at being able to climb on the garage so I
Yes.
could follow you guys. Anyway, I never was fast enough to catch up with them because they were like, I mean, you must have been in 8th grade. He was in 8th grade when I was in 1st grade, so my chances were slim. But I did,
Especially if your shoes weren't tied.
yeah. Okay.
Lucia had.
I was good at baseball. I could pitch. I threw a ball through the dining room window several times. I broke the window in the house. It was first Calhoun's. I broke their window, and then the Phillipses moved in, and I broke their window. I was good. I was good at baseball. It was just tying my shoes.
The
and climbing the garage.
batter's rain pipe was first base, second base was the sidewalk, and third base was the corner of the dining room. I remember Dad used to break the window. Yeah.
We all
So.
busted it once.
Great.
Well, this is really nice, Tommy. We can't thank you enough.
Yeah,
for your
Oh, thank
time.
you guys. This
Do we really?
will be a treasure for everybody.